Let's offer our respects to the founder Acharya of ISKCON, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram,
Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai.
So in the previous class, we finished with chapter number 13. In chapter 13, Krishna explains and he elaborates, he answers Arjuna's 6 questions which he inquired about in the beginning of the chapter. And in the previous class, we saw Krishna answering what is Neya, what is Prakriti, and what is Purusha. So Neya, the object of knowledge, Krishna said, is him, the super soul. But before that, he spoke about the individual soul, because to understand the super soul, first we have to understand what is the soul. Then we can understand the super soul. And then when he spoke about Prakriti and Purusha, about the living entity and material nature, and himself, he is the supreme enjoyer. We are small, minute enjoyers. Krishna spoke about how the living entities come into contact with material nature, and they are coming under the influence of the 3 modes of material nature. So this is going to be our connection from chapter 13 and chapter 14, because in chapter 14, Krishna is going to elaborate about what are these modes of material nature, how they affect us, what are the characteristics of the mode of material nature, and he ends the chapter by explaining how we can surpass, how we can overcome these modes of material nature. So chapter 14 is titled The 3 Modes of Material Nature. It has a total of 27 verses. But before we could start off this chapter, we should understand why we need to learn or understand or hear this particular chapter. So these are histories from the Gita Mahatmya that were recited or spoken by Lord Shiva to Goddess Parvati. So Lord Shiva is explaining to Goddess Parvati that in a place called Simhal Dweep, there was a king called Vikram Vetal. And he went running in a forest with his son and 2 hunting dogs. In the forest, he released one dog to chase a particular rabbit. When the dog was chasing, the rabbit was running for its life, and it ran so fast that it looked as though it was flying. Now, as the rabbit was running, it happened to reach a beautiful hermitage, which was very, very peaceful. This hermitage was so beautiful, so serene, that deer, the description given is that the deer were happily sitting under the shade of trees, monkeys were eating fruits from the trees, baby tigers and baby elephants were playing together, and snakes were crawling over the peacocks. In that forest, a great sage by the name Vatsa lived, and every day he chanted the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Now, near the ashram of the sage Vatsa, his disciple was washing his own feet. So the earth on that spot where he washed his feet, it became wet. And remember, this rabbit came running inside this place. And this rabbit came and it happened to go in that place where the mud is wet with the water that was washed by the disciple of Vatsa. So as soon as he touched this wet mud, the rabbit attained a heavenly body. An airplane descended and took the rabbit to the heavenly planets. Now, the dog that was chasing the rabbit also came to the same spot, and the dog also met with the same destiny as the rabbit. It was taken to the heavenly planets. Now, all this was seen by the disciple of Vatsa, and when he saw what has happened, he started to laugh. Now, King Vikram Vetal has witnessed this entire incident, and he asks the sage, which sage? He asks the disciple of sage Vatsa one question. What do you think is the question?
Why did they attain a heavenly body?
Exactly. Why? How is it possible that the dog and the rabbit, they could go to heaven? Yes, exactly. So this sage, he replies, he says that in this forest, a great sage Vatsa lives, and every day he chants the 14th chapter. And by chanting this particular chapter, he has completely conquered his senses. He says that I am his disciple, and by his grace, I also every day chant the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And because they slipped in the mud that was wet with the water I used to wash my feet, they were able to attain the heavenly planets. Now, one more question is asked by the king to this sage. What do you think is the next question asked?
Why is the chapter 14 that important?
Why is of chapter 14 that important? Okay, that's not exactly what he was asked. Anybody else wants to try and take a guess?
Or how did he conquer his senses? I mean, this great sage conquered the senses?
Yeah, we know he conquered the senses by reciting the 14th chapter every day. So what else could he have asked?
He wants to learn how to recite it the right way, maybe.
No. Okay, I will say. He asked him, why was he laughing? Because remember, he started to laugh when he saw the rabbit and the dog attaining the heavenly planets. So he started to laugh. So now the king wants to know, all right, but why did you laugh when this happened? So now he says that in Maharashtra, there is a town called Pratudhak. And in this place, there was a Brahmana by the name Keshava who lived with his wife called Vilobana. Now, this husband, Keshava, he is a very cruel man. And the wife, Vilobana, also is a loose lady. She associates with other men and she enjoyed the company. She engaged in sense gratification with men outside marriage. So once the husband, he came to know about this and he was very angry and he killed her. He killed his wife. Now in the next life, the wife became the dog and the Brahmana Keshava became the rabbit. So therefore, this particular Brahman, the disciple of sage Vatsa, he starts to laugh, thinking about how this law of material nature works. Just see how the cycle of birth is taking place. In the previous life, the husband killed the wife, and now in this life, the wife is following the husband to kill him. So thinking about this, he started to laugh. Then Lord Shiva concludes the story to goddess Parvati, and he tells her that after hearing the glories of the 14th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, King Vikram Vetal also began daily reciting the 14th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. When he gave up that body, he went to Vaikuntha, where he was able to engage eternally in the service of the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. So this is the benefit of learning this chapter.
Mataji, I have one question. This is the same Vikram Betal, which has a story in Indian scriptures, who carries a body on the shoulder. Is it the same?
No, this is not the same. This is a different. different thing.
Okay.
That's
Because
it.
his name was also Vikram Betal. I used to remember when we were small, we used to read this comic book
Yes,
sort of.
yes.
Okay. Okay. No, this is different. Okay. So what is the connection between chapter 13 and chapter 14? In chapter 13, verse 22, Krishna explains Purusha Prakriti Stohi. Purusha, the living entity, is situated. Stohi means situated. He is situated in material nature. And after being situated in material nature, what happens? Bhumte Prakriti Jan Gunan. He tries to enjoy the modes of material nature. He wants to enjoy it. So he's placed in the material nature and then he wants to enjoy. What is the reason for this? Karanam, the reason, Guna Sangosya, because of his association with the three modes of material nature, this happens. And then what happens? He meets with the good and evil, Sat Asad. He meets with the good and the evil in all the yonis, in all the species. Because there is happiness and there is distress in every species, doesn't matter which species we belong to. So this is the experience of the living entity in the material world. So chapter 13 describes the conditioned soul as distinct from yet entangled by material nature. So the spirit soul is spiritual, right? The individual soul is spiritual. It has a spiritual nature, but at the same time, it is entangled by the material nature. So the jiva is trapped within its kshetra, within its field of activities. This we saw in the previous chapter. Because of what? Because of his association with the three modes of material nature. Now in chapter 14, Krishna is going to explain what are these modes of material nature, how they act, how they bind one, and at the end of the chapter, he explains how we can be liberated from the influence of the three modes of material nature. So yes, these modes of material nature are very binding, they are very strong ropes, but that doesn't mean that we are completely helpless. We can come out of this bondage. So how to do it also, Krishna, he gives us the solution at the end of the chapter. Okay, so this 13.22 is the seed verse from which chapter number 14 is coming up. Okay, so this chapter is divided into 5 sections. We'll see them as we proceed. But before we begin today's verses, let's invoke auspiciousness. Please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Let's hear the shloka.
अथ चतुर्दशोऽध्यायः श्रीभगवानुवाच परं भूयः प्रवक्ष्यामि ज्ञानानां ज्ञानमुत्तमम् यज्ञात्वा मुनयः सर्वे परां सिद्धिमितो गताः.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Again, I shall declare to you this supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained the supreme perfection."
So yet again, Krishna is beginning the chapter by glorifying the contents of the chapter, what is coming up. So he says, again, I shall declare to you. Why again? Because already Krishna has spoken about the three modes of material nature in the previous chapter, in the verse that we just saw, 13.22. Now he says, again, I will declare to you this wisdom. And he says that this is the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained supreme perfection. So why is it so important to know about the three modes of material nature? Because knowing this, understanding this is a very powerful tool to attain self-realization. Now we are all bound in this material world. It's like a prison house, right? And if let's imagine that we are bound by ropes or we are bound by a lock. If we understand the lock mechanism, or if we see carefully how this rope is knotted up, only then we will be able to open the knot, or we will be able to open the lock, right? So before we can open it, we should understand how this mechanism works. Therefore, if we understand how these three modes of material nature, how they bind us, what are its characteristics, then we will be able to transcend these three modes. So therefore, again, Krishna is beginning by glorifying the chapter. So you see, previously also Krishna has done this. Most of the chapters in the Bhagavad Gita, if you observe, begin with the glorification of that particular chapter. So Krishna not only gives us important knowledge, he also gives us the importance of this knowledge. That's how merciful Lord Krishna is. Now, for example, if we are sick and we go to the doctor can give us a prescription, say, okay, you continue to take these medicines for the next 2 months and stop at that. Yes. But if the doctor is a good doctor,
मिस्टी मुझे काम करना ठीक है.
Okay, Shivani, you need to mute.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, but if the doctor tells us, all right, you have to take these medicines for 2 months. After you take these medicines for a couple of weeks, the symptoms would not be present anymore, right? The symptoms are going to subside, but still you continue to take the medicines. You don't stop taking the medicines, because if you stop taking the medicines, there will be a relapse of the disease. And now the relapse is going to be even more difficult to treat, right? So now not only the doctor has given the prescription, important knowledge, what he has to take, he's also explained the importance of why he has to take this prescription for the next 2 months without stopping. So now the patient is going to be even more convinced, and he's going to make sure that he does not discontinue the medicines. So when we know the importance of a particular subject matter, then we do it with even more conviction. When we know the glories of the holy name, we chant better. When we know the reason why we have to do japa or vrata or any kind of spiritual activity, if we know the reason why to do it, then we can do it with even more conviction, and we can do it for longer periods of time, right? Until death strikes us. If we don't know the importance, then there can be a time when we think that, oh, actually, this is probably just a superstition. Oh, why should I do it? Somebody would come and tell us, why do you want to fast? Just eat. What's the big deal? So then we say, yes, why should I undergo this difficulty of fasting on a particular day? Then all these thoughts come in. But when we know the reason why, then we do it with even greater conviction. So therefore, Krishna not only gives us the knowledge, not only gives us the important knowledge, he also explains the importance of the knowledge.
Idam jnanamupashritya mama sadharmyamagataha sarge pinopajayante pralayena vyathanti cha.
By becoming fixed in this knowledge, only one can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. Thus established, one is not born at the same time of creation or disturbed at the same time of dissolution.
Here Krishna is explaining what is a result of learning this knowledge. What does he say? One can attain the transcendental nature like my own. So we can become qualitatively the same as Krishna. Same in quality, but never in quantity. So Satchit Ananda is Krishna's quality, and we can also be Satchitananda. The soul is already Satchitananda, but now that we are conditioned in this material body, therefore we have to meet birth and death, disease and old age. And then he goes on to say that one is not born at the time of creation or disturbed at the time of dissolution. So we don't have to go through the cycle of birth and death.
Mama yonir mahad brahma tasmin garbham dadhamyaham sambhava sarva bhutanam tato bhavati bharata.
The total material substance called Brahman is the source of birth, and it is that Brahman that I impregnate, making possible the births of all living beings, O son of Bharata.
So Krishna is saying, Mama Yonir Mahat Brahma, this entire material substance, which we discussed last time, Pradhana, Krishna says that he impregnates it. So we see how Mahavishnu impregnates Pradhana by his vision. And by that, he makes the births of all living beings. So there are 8,400,000 1,000 different kinds of species that are made available for the living entity to fulfill its desires. So here when he says impregnate, he's talking about the process of creation, which we have discussed in detail. So we will quickly go through it again so that it registers better in our minds. Let's read the modern scientific view.
Scientists claim that initially there was a huge energy mass which was extremely dense and extremely hot. How this mass came to be, they cannot say, but they insist that it is how it was in the beginning.
So according to the Big Bang theory, they say that initially there was a huge mass which was extremely hot and extremely dense. Now, even if one has to compare this dense hot mass with Pradhana, yes, still they do not know how this mass came into existence. So they just say that there was this mass and then there was an explosion. But they cannot say how this came into existence. But the Vedic view is that nothing has come into existence on its own, but it was actually created by the Supreme Lord himself. The entire spiritual and material universe, not only the Pradhana, but the entire spiritual and material universe is created by the Supreme Lord himself. So we know that Krishna existed even before creation because he is Satchitananda, he is Sat, he is eternal. So there never was a time when Krishna did not exist. Then his first expansion is Balaram, and it's through the agency of Balaram that the entire creation process takes place. Right? So in the material realm, there are two aspects to creation. There is Sarga and Visarga. Sarga is primary creation. Visarga is secondary creation. So Lord Brahma is in charge of the secondary creation. Brahma is our creator, but he is the created creator. Before that, there is a primary creation that has taken place by the breathing of Mahavishnu. But before Mahavishnu also, there is so much that has happened, right? We know that from Lord Balaram come the first quadruple expansions of Vasudev, Sankarshan, Aniruddha and Pradyumna. From Lord Sankarshan comes Narayan. From Narayan come the second quadruple expansions of Vasudev. Again, second Sankarshan, Aniruddha and Pradyumna. And then from the second Sankarshan come Mahavishnu or Karanodakashai Vishnu, Garbhodakashai Vishnu and Shirodakashai Vishnu. It is this Karanodakashai Vishnu or Mahavishnu who breathes and creates universes. So anyway, first of all, the first question is, what is the need for creation? Why did the Lord create this material world? You can see in this picture. Can you see the mouse on the screen as I move around the picture?
Yes.
Okay. So here you can see Krishna with Srimati Radharani and the gopis and the Gopa friends. The cows are there. There is Balaram. Here Krishna is enjoying in Goloka eternally as a 16-year-old boy, and Srimati Radharani is a 14-year-old girl, and they're all enjoying eternal transcendental pastimes. Here we see the four-handed Narayan, and you can see people are worshipping him. So here this is represented by the Vaikuntha Lokas. In the Vaikuntha Lokas, the Lord is present in this form, and the residents of Vaikuntha are fully aware that Narayan is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and so the relationship of the residents of Vaikuntha and Lord Narayan is formal. Here it is informal. Here they are made to forget that Krishna is God. So there is more intimacy in the relationship in Goloka. Now here you see this particular corner here of the picture represents the material realm. So we know that the material realm is a dark cloud-like substance in one corner of the spiritual world. And you see this person here, he has turned his face away from the spiritual realm. And therefore he is now called as Bahir Mukhi. Bahir, the word Bahir means out, Mukhi means face. So he has turned his face away from Krishna. One moment, out of curiosity, out of desire to see what it is like to enjoy independently from God. So for him, he's just turned his face away, and after a moment, he turns his face back in. But from our material calculation, it is millions and millions of lifetimes have passed before he turns his face back in. If he never looks outside, or if he is looking towards Lord, then he is called as Antarmukhi. Antarmukhi. He's looking inside towards the Lord. But when he looks away, he's called as Bahirmukhi. So the living entity, yes, is does belong to the Lord's superior nature, but actually he belongs to the Lord's superior marginal energy. Okay, now what does this word marginal mean? The word margin means the tendency can go either way, right? Either left or right side, on either side of the margin. So he belongs to Krishna's marginal energy. So he does have the capacity, and he always has the free will. He always has that minute independence to move away from Krishna, because the relationship between the living entity and the Lord is based on love. And love cannot be, love means there is no force. We cannot force someone at gunpoint. Tell me you love me. Okay, so the person out of fear of being shot down may say, okay, yes, I love you, but the love is not coming from the heart. So this relationship is based on love, and where there is love, there is no force. So therefore, Krishna doesn't force us to stay with him in the spiritual realm. Therefore, he has given us this minute independence, and he never takes it away from us. Whether we're in the material or in the spiritual realm, that minute independence we always have. So we are the Tathastha Shakti, or the marginal energy of Krishna. So the whole story begins like this. When we turn away, when we become Bahirmukhi. See, just as how, let's say, the son tells the father that I want to ride the car like you ride. And the father may tell the son, you are too small right now. You're only 5 years old. You cannot ride a car. And then the son begins to throw tantrums and says, no, but I want to do it. Whatever it is, I want to do it. He starts crying. So what will the father do? The father may take him, all right, let's go for go-karting. There in the go-karting, he can have the experience of riding a car. And he tells his father, look how I'm controlling the car. Look how fast I'm going. I'm also driving the car just like you do. The father says, yes, definitely. You're so good at driving. You're driving even better than me, the father may say, isn't it? So like that, the father takes the child for the go-karting experience so that he can get the experience of riding the car. But actually the child is not in control of the car, like how the father is in control of the real car, not the toy car. Yes. So it's the father allows the child to have that experience so that the child can have the experience of what it desires to have. Or on the other side, maybe a small girl is playing with her kitchen set, her toy kitchen set, and she cooks an imaginary meal in her toy kitchen set, and she may bring a plate and give it to the mother and say, look, mama, I made this delicious food for you. Actually, there is nothing on the plate. See, but she's just, having the experience. And then the mother says, oh, wow, this food is so wonderful. You really are such a good cook. Thank you so much for making this for me. And the girl also feels very happy. So she gets the mother or the father don't say, oh, what is this nonsense? What are you doing? This is so childish. The parents are not going to tell this to the child, right? So like this, in the same way, because of the living entity's childish desire, the Lord says, okay, go ahead, have the experience of it. But at the end of the day, it is the Lord who is controlling. At the end of the day, it is the father who's controlling the real car. It is the mother who's controlling the gas in the kitchen, cooking, etc. Only the child is having the experience of it, and the parent is allowing them to have the experience of it. So Krishna is in complete control. He is the doer. He is the one who sanctions everything. It's just that he's allowing us to have the experience of it because we desired it in the first place. Okay, so 1/4 of the spiritual realm is the material realm. And the material realm is a dark cloud-like substance. And Mahavishnu is on the peripheral is on the boundary of that, which separates the spiritual and the material. And from there, he's breathing and he's creating these golden egg-shaped universes. The references are there in the Brahma Samhita. And by his breathing, he's creating these universes. Of course, the body of Mahavishnu is huge, very, very large, very, very big. We cannot even imagine, because from every pore of his skin, an entire universe is coming up. And one universe means 14 planetary systems. So we can imagine how huge must the body of Lord Vishnu, Lord Mahavishnu be. So now, after these universes are coming out from the body of Mahavishnu, they are covered by the 5 gross elements. And these are entering into Pradhana. And then he glances at Pradhana, and in his glance takes the form of Lord Shambhu, and it is through his glance that the jivas, and with their karma, the jiva, so every living entity has a karmic balance, yes. So the jiva, along with its karmic balance, they are all transferred to this Pradhana. And there are 18 other inanimate elements waiting to act. So this material world, remember, is a combination of 24 elements. 5 elements are already existing here, right? When they come out from Mahavishnu's body, they are already covered by the 5 gross elements. So there are 18 other elements that are waiting to act. They are not yet acting because still it is in the inactivated state. Mahavishnu also then sends time. He impregnates material energy with the time element, and then this Pradhana is now in the active state. Now it transforms into Mahatattva. So here you can see a picture of Mahavishnu glancing at material energy. This Garbhodakashayi Vishnu then expands as Mahavishnu expands as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, and he enters into each universe. And then Garbhodakashayi Vishnu expands as Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, and Kshirodakashayi Vishnu enters into the heart of every living entity. Now when Garbhodakashayi Vishnu enters the universe is empty. He enters and he fills it up to half with the Garbhodaka ocean, which is his own sweat. Okay, and he fills it. The universe is filled up to 50% with his sweat, and that is the Garbhodaka ocean. And then comes a lotus flower, and Brahma is on the top of the lotus flower. Now, Brahma, when he appears on that lotus flower, he's completely bewildered. He's afraid. He doesn't know. And he sees complete darkness. He sees no light. And he doesn't know what he has to do. The only word he hears at that time is tapa. So it's from an unknown source. He hears the word tapa. So he understands that he has to perform tapasya. So for millions of years, he performs tapasya. And then finally, the Lord reveals himself in Brahma's heart. And then he's initiated with the Gayatri mantra. Then Brahma understands what is it that he has to do, who is he, what is the service that is allocated to him. And therefore, then he starts creation. What does he create? He creates the 14 planetary systems, and he also creates the different bodies for the living entity. So the jivas have been transferred into the Pradhana, but now they need bodies, right? Material bodies. So he creates the bodies. Let's read this text, Harman.
In the beginning of creation, when Lord Brahma appeared on a lotus flower born from the navel of Lord Vishnu, he was perplexed as to the source of the lotus flower and of his own existence. Brahma also required direction how to proceed with his creative work, i.e., the engineering and construction of the entire universe. All he could see was the lotus flower upon which he was seated in endless darkness. At that time, hearing the syllables tapa being vibrated from an unknown source, he executed devotional penances for a long time. At the end of 1,000 celestial years, the Lord, being very much satisfied by Brahma's penance, manifested before him along with his spiritual abode, and instructed him the essence of Bhagavatam in 4 verses. Graphic description of this episode of Brahma's perplexity, penance, and finally seeing the Supreme Lord are found in the second canto, chapter 9. The questions Lord Brahma put to the Lord upon seeing him are answered by the Lord in the Chatur Shloki or 4 essential verses, which are Srimad Bhagavatam 2.9.33 to 36. As in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna has summarized the whole text in 4 verses, BG 10.8 to 11. So the complete Srimad Bhagavatam has also been summarized in these 4 verses. Brahma instructed them to Narada and requested him to expand them further. Later on, Naradaji gives the same instruction to Vyasadeva, who then expanded the entire Srimad Bhagavatam to this described in Canto 1, Chapter 5 to 7, which was later recited by Sukadeva Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit.
So these 4 verses are the nutshell verses. The Chatushloki of the Srimad Bhagavatam are the verses that were revealed to Lord Brahma at the dawn of creation. When the Lord manifested before him, Lord Brahma asked him 4 questions. And in reply to those, not 4, I'm sorry, how many questions? Yeah, 4 questions, I was right. So 4 questions. And in reply to the 4 questions, the Lord spoke the 4 Chatushloki or the 4 nutshell verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So all Vedic knowledge have expanded from those 4 verses. All that Brahma required to know were those 4 verses because he is the most intelligent living entity of the universe. So this is all that he requires. So all Shastra have sprung from those 4 nutshell verses. If you want, you can go and read this on your Vedabase 2.9.33 to 36. So what are the questions that Lord Brahma had? Let's read.
The questions asked by Brahmaji were as follows. 1. What are the forms of the Lord both in matter and in transcendence? How are the How are the different energies of the Lord working? 3. How does the Lord play with his different energies? 4. How may Brahma be instructed to discharge the duty entrusted to him without being conditioned by such activities? The answers to these 4 questions forms the nucleus of the Bhagavatam. The Lord informs Brahma that this knowledge is very subtle and can be understood only by the grace of the Lord, achieved through the process of devotional service.
So yes, the Lord answers these questions, but before he answers the questions, he tells him that actually this can be understood only through devotional service. That he says in 31 and 32, and then 33, 34, 35, 36 are the answers, the 4 nutshell verses. So after this, what does Lord Brahma do? Now he understands that he has to create. So he creates his mental sons and tells them to populate the universe. Who are these first 4 mental sons? Mean not crazy, but mind-born sons, Manasaputras. Okay, so they are the mind-born sons of Lord Brahma. They are the 4 Kumaras. And he wanted them to populate the universe, but the 4 Kumaras are very, very advanced. So they don't want to be caught up in any kind of family life. So they refuse to follow the instruction of Lord Brahma. So Lord Brahma is very angry. And because of his anger, then Rudra comes out from between the eyebrows of Lord Brahma. Then Lord Brahma gives him, okay, these are your 11 names, and these will be your 11 Rudranis. So there are 11 Rudras. Now he asks Rudra to populate the universe, and Rudra, he has offsprings, etc., many of them, but they all start to devour everyone in the universe. Because remember, Rudra has come from Lord Brahma's eyebrows when Lord Brahma was very angry. So then Lord Brahma tells Rudra, no, this you have to do when it's time for dissolution, when there is destruction, then you can go around destroying everything. But right now we have to create. So what you do now, you go and do tapasya, you go and engage in penances. So then Rudra goes away, he does penances, and then Lord Brahma creates 10 more sons. These are the names of the 10 sages that are begotten by Brahma, and Narada is one of them. After that, he begets Kardama Muni, and after that he begets a daughter called Vak, and then he begets Manu and Shatarupa. The word man or Manusha comes from Manu. So Manu and Shatarupa, then they have 5 children. One of the more famous sons of Swayambhuva Manu was Uttanpad. Uttanpad is the father of Dhruv Maharaj. And also Devahuti, one of the daughters of Manu, very, very famous. She was married to Kardama Muni. whose son was Lord Kapila, who's none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. So like that, anyway, the universe was populated. You can see this picture when I share it in the group. Very, very interesting. You can see how the universe was populated from Manu. After this, what happens? Now Lord Brahma lives for 311 trillion and 40 billion years. And at the end of it, everything is destroyed by the Rudras. And this is complete destruction. So now let's
सर्वयोनिषु कौन्तेय मूर्तयः सम्भवन्ति याः तासां ब्रह्ममहद्योनिर् अहं बीजप्रदः पिता.
Translation. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving father.
Aham bija pradaha pita. Krishna says, I am the seed-giving father. He is the seed-giving father of all the living entities. Not only human beings, but any living entity. He is the seed-giving father, Krishna says. So we may have taken birth in this material world. It appears that we have taken birth in this material world. But beyond that, beyond the fact that we are born to our mother and father, beyond that, the fact is that ultimately we are the children of Krishna, because Krishna says that he is the seed-giving father. Now we are conditioned souls, and we are spiritual, but we also have a material side to us because we are conditioned by material nature. Now, when a child is born, the child has characteristics of the father and the mother, right? People like to say, or parents also say, oh, this child has the ear or the eyes like the mother, the nose is like the father, whatever it is, like that. So like this, in the same way, we are spiritual because we are parts and parcels of Krishna. But because we are conditioned by material nature, we also have a material side to us. So material nature is our mother and Krishna is our father. So we have a little bit of the mother and we also have a little bit of the father. We are conditioned by material nature. We are conditioned by the kinds of body we have. But at the same time, the soul is spiritual. So we are a combination of both. Now, especially in places which are very hot, you would see sacks of rice, and sometimes you would see scorpions coming out of sacks of rice. Scorpions normally they like to go in the sacks of rice because it's hot and very nice, and they hatch their eggs in the rice. So when you open a sack of rice, sometimes scorpions come out of it. So it may appear like the scorpion has taken birth from the rice, but that doesn't mean that the cause of the birth of the scorpion is the rice. Yes, the mother scorpion hatches its eggs in the sack of rice, and then these scorpions come out. Let's read this.
Into material nature, the superior nature is mixed by the will of the supreme personality of Godhead, and thereafter all living entities are born of this material nature. The scorpion lays its eggs in piles of rice, and sometimes it is said that the scorpion is born out of rice, but the rice is not the cause of the scorpion. Actually, the eggs were laid by the mother. Similarly, material nature is not the cause of birth of the living entities. The seed is given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they only seem to come out as products of material nature. Srila Prabhupada.
So the scorpion does not lay its eggs outside its body. It lays, the eggs are hatched inside the body of the scorpion itself. Very unique. But anyway, this is the visual. And this is how Srila Prabhupada explains it to us in the purport. So now we come to section 2, where we see how is it that the modes bind the pure soul.
सत्त्वं रजस्तम इति गुणाः प्रकृतिसम्भवाः निबध्नन्ति महाबाहो देहे देहिनमव्ययम्.
Translation. Material nature consists of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, he becomes conditioned by these modes.
So here Krishna is introducing the three modes. He says that there are three: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Sattva guna, rajoguna, and tamoguna. And when the living entity comes in contact with nature, then he becomes conditioned. Just as how, let's say, the mother and the child are watching a movie. They are watching a horror movie. The child is safely sitting in the lap of its mother. But because the child is watching the movie, a horror movie, it is going through so many emotions of horror, terror, fear. But at the end of the day, the child is safe in its mother's lap. There is no reason why the child has to go through fear. But because his consciousness is in the movie, he is going through these different emotions. In the same way, we are spiritual. We are Krishna's parts and parcels. But because we have come in touch with material nature, we are going through suffering and happiness. We are going through happiness and distress in this material realm. So we are going through these different experiences because our consciousness is trapped in material nature. Just as how the child's consciousness is trapped in the horror movie. But whereas technically he is very safe in his mother's lap. So this is how this this connection is there between material nature and the jiva and the living entities. This material nature is the three modes are subtle forces. Guna means rope, yes, and there are various ropes that are intertwined so that the rope is very, very strong and they bind us in this material nature. So they are subtle subtle ropes we cannot see, but they are there that are binding us. See, modes are subtle forces that shape the interaction between matter and consciousness. So modes are subtle forces. We cannot directly see them by our gross senses. What do? They shape the interaction between what? Matter and consciousness. So matter exists, material nature is existing, and we are conscious beings. So how are we going to interact with matter? That is shaped by how the modes are affecting us. Let's take an example. Now, there is a bus journey. There are many people traveling on the bus, but we will take three cases. And the bus is now passing through a very nice, beautiful, serene, peaceful garden. Now, one of the passengers is reading a book on the bus. But because the bus is shaking constantly, she is not able to read the book very well because there is a lot of shake and there's a lot of disturbance. So she's not able to concentrate very well. And when she looks out of the window and she sees this beautiful garden, she's thinking that, oh, such a nice, wonderful, beautiful garden. If only I could go there and read my book, I would be able to read this book so much more peacefully and I would be able to relish the book so much more. Now, another person on the bus, he is watching a romantic film on his gadget. And when he sees this garden, what is he thinking? If only I had a partner, I could go to this garden and I could spend some nice quality time with my partner. Somebody else on the bus wants to sleep, but because of the bumpy ride of the bus, she is not able to sleep well. So therefore, when she sees the garden, she thinks, oh, if I could only go to that garden, I would just go there and go under the shade of a tree and have a nice sound sleep. So the matter is the same. It's the same garden. But these three people are interacting, or their consciousness is different when they see the same matter. Why? Because the consciousness of the girl who's reading the book is in the mode of goodness. The consciousness of the person who's watching the movie, the romantic movie, is in the mode of passion. And this person who's trying to sleep, her consciousness is in the mode of ignorance. So how this interaction takes place between matter and consciousness, it's not the same for everyone. It's different. Yes. And so these modes are the forces that shape the interaction. For someone it's passion, for somebody it's ignorance. So like that, these modes play with the living entities. So as we discussed, it's the Supreme Lord who is in charge. He is the supreme controller, and he just allows us to have the experience of, all right, go ahead and see, go ahead and have the experience of enjoying independently. But ultimately, it's the Lord who is in control. He's spoon feeding us. Now, very interestingly, if you read this chapter about the churning of the ocean. Now, the Devatas and the demons, they wanted to churn the ocean because they wanted Amrit, nectar, which would grant them immortality. So they both want the nectar. They both want to be immortal. So therefore, they decide to churn the ocean. Now, first of all, they need a mountain to churn the ocean. So they want the Mandara mountain, a particular mountain which they are going to use to churn the entire ocean. But they are not even able to move the Mandara mountain from where it is situated and take it to that ocean. So what happens, the Lord comes, and then on the back of Garuda, the carrier of Lord Vishnu, this mountain is placed on the back of Garuda, and Garuda takes it to the water. All right. Now, they put the Garuda in the ocean, but they are not able to sustain. This mountain is sinking into the ocean. So now what the Lord does, he takes the Kurma avatar, the form of a tortoise, and he goes down inside the ocean. Then the mountain is placed on his back, and now they are able to hold the mountain in the water and to churn. So they use Vasuki, the snake, to churn. One side are the demons, one side are the demigods, and they start to churn. But now as they are churning, no, but before they start churning, again the Lord takes the form of a 1,000-armed Vishnu, and he is also supporting the mountain from the top. Okay, so the mountain was brought because of the Lord, down it is sustained by the Lord, on top it is sustained by the Lord, and now they are finally able to churn. But as they churn again, there is fire and smoke coming out from the mouth of the snake, Vasuki, and therefore the Lord now sends rain and wind to blow the smoke away. Again, he's spoon feeding them. Then again, after some time, they start to churn, but then they are now tired. They are not able to continue churning. So then finally the Lord appears as Ajita, and he personally churns the ocean. But finally, they are thinking that we have churned the ocean. So that is the state of us, the living entities. We think that we are the doers. We think that we have done. I am a self-made man. मैंने अपने hard work से ये estate खड़ा किया, no? They say no like that. So after a lot of hard work, I have been able to achieve this success. No, we are not able to even digest the food that we eat. So the Lord, he gives us the food. He also has given us the ability to eat the food, put it in the mouth. Then to digest the food in the mouth also, he has given us saliva, and then we swallow the food. Then the food goes in the stomach, and even in the stomach, we are not able to digest food. For that also, he has given us the power of digestion. We know that there is a digestive fire in the stomach. So the digestive fire also is given to us by the Lord. So everything the Lord provides, and we think that we are the doers. We think that we are the controllers. No, we are not. It's the Lord who controls everything. This is how it's the father who drives the real car, it's the mother who's taking care of the food, but the child just has the experience of doing it, and the child thinks that, oh yes, I drove the car, oh yes, I made this food. So like that, the living entity just gets the feeling, but we are not the doers. It's the Lord who's control. Let's read this translation from the Bhagawad.
The conditioned living entity is satisfied in his own particular species of life, while deluded by the covering influence of the illusory energy, he feels little inclined to cast off his body, even when in hell, for he takes delight in hellish enjoyment.
So see, the conditioned living entity is satisfied in his own species of life. So every species is thinking that life is great. What is wrong? If you tell someone that, you're suffering, this is dukhalayam ashashvatam, you need to go to the spiritual realm, they say, no, life is great. Life is so beautiful. Be positive. Why are you so pessimistic, right? So every living entity is satisfied in his own species, not only human beings, but even the worm in the stool is thinking that life is great. It's so warm and cozy and nice here. That worm in the stool is not realizing that he is in a filthy place. Or the pig who's eating stool and he thinks, wow, this is so delicious. He doesn't realize that he's eating stool. So every living entity is satisfied in his own species of life, and he does not feel inclined to cast off his body. That how strong is um, the influence of material nature on us. We don't even realize that we are suffering. We think that we are enjoying. So how much we are covered by this illusionary energy. Let's read about Indra's fall from heaven with regard to this.
Once Indra, the king of heaven, was cursed by his spiritual master, Brahaspati, on account of his misbehavior, he became a hog on this planet. After many days, when Brahma wanted to recall him to his heavenly kingdom, Indra, in the form of a hog, forgot everything of his royal position in the heavenly kingdom, and he refused to go back.
So Indra was cursed, and he is now in the body of a hog, and in the body of a hog he has his wife pig and his children. The piglets are there, and he's happily living. And then Lord Brahma says, okay, now it's time for you to go back to heaven, and it's time for you to be reinstated as the king of heaven. Let's go. So Indra says, no, how can I leave my wife pig? How can I leave my children pig? I'm very satisfied. I don't want to go anywhere. Where do you want to take me? So you see, even Lord Indra, the king of heaven, when he's in the body of the pig, he's thinking that, no, I'm enjoying my life. I don't want to go anywhere. So just what we discussed in this particular verse, that the living entity is satisfied in his own particular species, and he is little inclined to cast off his body. So who is to blame for all this? Let's read.
The fault that causes his conditioned state certainly rests upon the independent desire of the soul. We cannot blame Krishna, crying that the Lord is the cause of all causes, any more than a criminal can blame the judge for his jail sentence. We have misused our minute independence. Due to enmity toward Krishna, we have rejected our constitutional position as his servitor. Therefore, we must go to the material world of illusion. We have no other choice. All jivas in the spiritual world willingly and lovingly keep Krishna's service at the center of their consciousness. How, then, can we live there? We prefer our independence. Thus, we are given a home within matter, a realm in which we can forget Krishna. In life's multiple choice exam, select an alternative based on what it says, not where it stays. In a multiple choice exam, the position of an alternative doesn't determine its correctness. Just because an alternative is positioned first doesn't make it correct. The correctness of an alternative depends on what it says, not where it says. In life, we have many choices about what we desire and do. Thus, life is somewhat like a multiple choice exam. But in this exam, we are often irrationally predisposed towards its first alternative. When the mind tempts us with a desire for sense gratification, we frequently accept it. The first alternative usually comes from our conditioning by the modes of material nature. We need to subject the first alternative due to scrutiny and also give the other alternatives due attention. To make such a discerning choice, to make such discerning choices, we need to loosen the grip of the modes on us. For this, Gita wisdom endorses Bhakti Yoga as the most effective method. As Bhakti practice progressively frees our consciousness, we become capable of evaluating alternatives intelligently, thereby empowering ourselves to make healthy choices that lead to lasting fulfillment.
So yes, when we have an exam and we have to choose the correct answer, we evaluate all the options given to us and we choose the correct one. Just because something is option A, the first option, it doesn't mean that it is a correct option. And usually the first thing that comes to our mind, what is the first thing that the mind is going to tell us? The mind is going to tempt us away from Krishna, tell us to do things, to engage in sense gratification, so that we can move away from Krishna, because that is what is the service allotted to Maya. So just because it's the first thing that comes from our mind, it doesn't mean that it is the right thing to do. We have to use our intelligence, evaluate all the options, and choose what is right and what is wrong. 14.6.
तत्र सत्त्वं निर्मलत्वात् प्रकाशकमनामयम् सुखसङ्गेन बध्नाति ज्ञानसङ्गेन चानघ.
Translation. O sinless one, the mode of goodness, being purer than the others, is illuminating, and it frees one from all sinful reactions. Those situated in the mode become conditioned by a sense of happiness and knowledge.
Okay, here Krishna is referring to Arjuna by which name? It's the last word of the shloka.
Chana.
Yeah, Anaga. Anaga means
Sinless
Another.
one.
sinless one. So this is one name of Arjuna, Anaga. It means sinless. So why is he calling him sinless here? Is because here Krishna is talking about the mode of goodness. Here now, 6, 7, and 8, Krishna is going to explain one after the other. How is it that the three modes are binding the soul? How is it that the three modes condition the living entity? So 6, 7, and 8 is what he's going to talk about in sequence. So here he's talking about the mode of goodness, and he says that the mode of goodness is purer than the others. So mode of goodness is better than the mode of passion and better than the mode of ignorance. It is purer. Why? Because a person in the mode of goodness does not commit sinful activities. He stays away from sinful activities. And because he stays away from sinful activities, it gives him a feeling of happiness. But even the mode of goodness binds a person. How? By a sense of happiness and knowledge. Sukha sangena and jnana sangena. By happiness and knowledge, a person in the mode of goodness is bound in this material realm. Now, what is the problem with knowledge? This knowledge here refers to material knowledge. And what happens when a person is materially qualified, he has a lot of knowledge, then it leads to pride. And he is not willing to learn, right? He says, if you try to explain something to him, he says, no, I already know. So his like, there is a wall. He is not willing to learn because he thinks that he knows everything. He's very, very knowledgeable. He's very, very intelligent. And it leads to pride. Just like how we have the story of Durvasa Muni and Ambarish. So Ambarish is a pure devotee. He's a Vaishnava. And Durvasa Muni, there was a sense of pride in him that I am this great sage. The pride had come in him. So he failed to see that Ambarish is actually a devotee, and what he is doing is devotional service because he wants to break his fast on time. You see, so a person in the mode of goodness is bound by sukha and jnana, by happiness and knowledge. Now, these people, sukha, sangena means they are also comfortably placed, like, okay, my children are settled. One is in America, one is in Australia. They are both settled down. They have nice families. I have good, nice grandchildren. They come and visit me every 6 months. And I have enough bank balance. I have good health. So they are used to being happy. The moment there is something that is going to bring in some misery in their comfortable life, then they get hassled, So they are bound. They always want to be happy. And because of knowledge also, they are bound for what I just explained. Now let's go to mode of passion. How does a mode of passion bind a person?
रजो रागात्मकं विद्धि तृष्णासङ्गसमुद्भवम् तन्निबध्नाति कौन्तेय कर्मसङ्गेन देहिनम्.
Translation. The mode of passion is born of unlimited desires and longings, O son of Kunti, and because of this, the embodied living entity is bound to material fruitive actions.
So how does the mode of passion bind a person? By desires and longings. Krishna uses the word Trishna Sangha, right? Trishna Sangha. So a person in the mode of passion, he has a lot of desires and he's hankering. He's always longing, and in order to fulfill his desires, in order to fulfill his hankering for so many other material desires of his, he has to work. He has to work with a lot of passion. Therefore, he is bound by his desires and his longings. This is what binds him to this material world. See that what karma sangena, Krishna says, karma sangena. So he, in order to fulfill his Trishna, he has to be involved in activities. So karma. So what kind of activities, what kind of karma? They are fruitive activities, material fruitive activities. And it is these material fruitive activities that bind the person in the mode of passion to this material realm. Let's read this.
The whole material world is more or less in the mode of passion. Modern civilization is considered to be advanced in the standard of the mode of passion. Formerly, the advanced condition was considered to be in the mode of goodness. Srila Prabhupada.
So Prabhupada explains how in the current society, the standard is mode of passion. Everybody is hankering, and it's becoming a status symbol. No, a person is judged by the number of cars he has, by the number of properties he has. Then the person deserves a lot of respect. Then such a person is spoken to. Such a person has many friends. Everybody wants to be friends with a person, and he commands a lot of respect in society. But previously, it is a person who is in the mode of goodness who would receive a lot of respect. But now, in the current situation, if there is somebody who is spiritual, then that person is made fun of. People are said, what are you doing? Just enjoy life. You see, they make fun of such a person and they discourage the person from taking to spirituality. This is how it has become, unfortunately. Now let's see how the mode of ignorance binds.
तमस्त्वज्ञानजं विद्धि मोहनं सर्वदेहिनां प्रमादालस्य निद्राभिः तन्निबध्नाति भारत.
Translation. O son of Bharata, know that the mode of darkness, born of ignorance, is the delusion of all embodied living entities. The results of this mode are madness, indolence, and sleep, which bind the conditioned soul.
So what is it that binds the conditioned soul in the mode of ignorance?
Madness, indolence, and sleep.
Exactly. Madness, indolence, and sleep. Indolence means being lazy. What's the Sanskrit here? Krishna uses alasya. Alasya, he says. So alasya means to be lazy. So this is the exact opposite of the mode of goodness. A person in the mode of goodness, there is knowledge. This person in the mode of ignorance, there is no knowledge at all. He's completely in. Why madness? Because a person lacks knowledge, he doesn't know what is right and what is wrong. And because he has no idea of what is right and what is wrong, he just does whatever comes to his mind. So he's acting like a madman. So the results of this mode is madness, alasya. He is very lazy, and sleep. He loves to sleep. So ignorance, darkness, that means sleep. So these are the things that bind a person in the mode of ignorance. So what is binding in the mode of goodness? Who remembers? What are the 2 points? Knowledge and happiness. Okay, knowledge and happiness in the mode of goodness. Then in the mode of passion, it was?
Oh, madness. No. That is different. Okay.
Desire and longings. And in the mode of ignorance, it is madness, indolence, and sleep.
Indolence.
This is how the 3 modes bind the conditioned living entity. So here's a summary. You can read it when we share the slides. It's the same thing what we have already discussed. What is the goal of one who's in the mode of goodness, one in the mode of passion, one in the mode of ignorance? None of them are going to go to the spiritual realm unless they transcend the 3 modes. Let's say the goal is to travel to India. A person in the mode of goodness, because he has knowledge, he knows that the goal is to go to India. So he buys his ticket. He is at the airport at the right time. He passes through customs and he is there at the boarding gate with his boarding pass at the right time. That's a person in the mode of goodness. A person in the mode of passion is aware that the goal is to go to India, but he's so absorbed in the discotheque with his girlfriend. He's so absorbed in working hard in his office that he does not purchase his ticket. A person in the mode of ignorance does not even know, he's not even aware, complete ignorance. He's just sleeping. He's not even aware that the goal is to travel to India. Now, between these three people, the best person who is the best situated to attain the goal, it is a person who's there at the airport at the right time, isn't it? The person in the mode of goodness. But let's say this person at the airport does not board the flight, then he is not going to reach the destination. So that flight is the plane of Krishna consciousness. If we don't take to the plane of Krishna consciousness, if we do not board the flight, then we are as far away from India, as far away from the destination, as far away from reaching Krishna as the other two people. Geographically speaking, the distance is the same. He may be at the airport, but because he didn't board his flight, he is never going to reach his destination. So if we, even though we are in the mode of goodness, if we do not take to the plane of Krishna consciousness, we are not going to reach the spiritual realm. We are not going to reach the lotus feet of Krishna. Okay, so the destiny of all three is that we cannot, if we are situated only in the mode of goodness, we cannot reach the spiritual realm. We have to transcend the mode of goodness. We have to attain the transcendental mode of goodness or the Shuddha Sattva stage so that we can reach the Lord's abode.
Sattvam sukhe sanjayati rajah karmani bharata jnanamavritya tu tamaha pramade sanjayatyuta.
Translation. O son of Bharata, the mode of goodness conditions one to happiness. Passion conditions one to fruitive action, and ignorance covering one's knowledge binds to madness.
So this is a summary of what Krishna just explained in the previous 3 verses. He's just repeating and he's giving a summary here. So now we'll go to section 3. Let's see what Krishna has to say.
Rajastamaschabhibhuya sattvam bhavati bharata rajah sattvam tamaschaiva tamas sattvam rajastatha.
Translation. Sometimes the mode of goodness becomes prominent, defeating the modes of passion and ignorance. O son of Bharata, sometimes the mode of passion defeats goodness and ignorance, and at other times ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way, there is always competition for supremacy.
So Krishna has described the effects of the modes previously. Now he's saying that these modes are not constant in their influence on the living entity. Sometimes maybe the mode of goodness is more predominant on us. Sometimes it may be the mode of passion that is more predominant, and sometimes it may be the mode of ignorance. So these 3 modes are competing with each other. It's not that always it's a certain percentage or always it is only the mode of goodness or whatever it is. So it's always changing. And there is a competition for supremacy. Now, what do you think affects the mode of nature by which we are influenced? Let's say today I'm feeling very good. I think I'm in a mode of goodness. But today I'm feeling, or some other day I'm feeling very down. I'm feeling very lazy. I don't feel like doing any work. I just don't want to go to office. I don't want to do anything. I just want to sleep. I want to sleep for 12 hours today. So now I'm under the influence of the mode of ignorance. So what are the factors that influence the mode of nature we are in? What do you think could be affecting us?
The food, the environment, the air, everything. The food,
Thoughts.
water,
And your thoughts also.
The thought comes from the food.
Okay. What else?
The environment, the social people you're around with. If you're in tamoguni people or rajoguni people.
Okay. The association we keep, the food we eat.
The health that we keep ourselves in, the mood that we keep ourselves in, our mood, our attitude, which is called ahankar, that we keep ourselves in. The
Yeah.
I think
environment.
it is
So
not
see,
just the
when we say mood, mood is nothing but the mode. It's the mode that is affecting the mood. So if my mood is that of being lazy, that's because it's the mode of ignorance that is affecting me. So one may not understand. See, technical terms is the modes of material nature, but for a common man is just you say the mood. For example, now let's say a person decides to wake up early morning every day. It's good for health. I want to go for my morning walk. I want to take some fresh air, whatever reason. Okay. Not no transcendental reasons, but just sattva guna. So he decides to get up early morning. He may get up day 1, very nice, day 2, day 3, day 4, also. Day 5, he doesn't get up. So on the 5th day, a friend asks him, what happened? You didn't come today for the morning walk. He says, no, I changed my mind. Actually, it's not that he changed his mind changed him. So it's the influence of the mood that is affecting his mind. So his mind has changed. So mood means mode of material nature only. Okay. But what factor affects the mode or the mood?
Our karma, our activities.
Is it also a lack of motivation also? Lack of motivation when one is not willing to put in that much effort, one is not serious and sincere about their efforts. Lack of will.
I think karma
Yes,
and
so
association.
lack of will, lack of all this is the result of the effect. Yes, but what is it that is affecting us? What are the factors that affect us?
Yeah, it's a
More
time that we are in the Kali Yuga also, that also affects us. We are living in this age where the surrounding impressions are there, which are, scattered, which we
Okay,
receive
so the
through five
place,
senses.
okay, the place where we reside and the time also affects our modes. Very nice. Okay.
Association as well.
Association, yes, of course, very big factor. What kind of people are we associating with? What else?
Sadhus.
Company of the people, that's what.
Yes, association. Then
So it's your five senses, Mataji, which is not just your mouth you're eating food with, that you're having sattvic, but what kind of food you're receiving through your five senses. You're listening, your eyes, and you're smelling good thing, or you're going into kind of atmosphere where people are having a liquor and drugs and all that. So all these five senses affects our mood, our mode of thinking.
yeah,
And I think
yes. What is the input? What is the input we are putting into our consciousness through the five senses? It affects our consciousness. Yes, very nice. Okay, there is a list given by Krishna himself to Uddhava in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, let's see. Let's read this, Harman.
there are different activities as Krishna explains to Uddhava in Srimad Bhagavatam 11:13.4 that affect the mode of nature by which we are influenced. Agama, the Shastra we hear. Apa, the water we drink and the food we eat. Praja, our association. Desha, where we live and how it is influenced by the different modes. Kala, the time of the day. Karma, our activities. Janma, our conditioning from birth. Dhyana, our thoughts. Mantras, what we chant. And samskaras, the ceremonies we undergo in the Varnashrama system, beginning with the impregnation and ending with burial.
Okay, so Kala, the time of the day. Which time of the day is the mode of goodness more prevalent?
In the morning from where you had taught it, it's like 6 to 6 or like there are 6 hours in between.
Okay, so
Or
24 hours in a day, 3 modes. So how many hours per
divided
mode?
in eight. So
8 hours.
then from
about 4 a.m.
to 8
8,
to 12 to 12.
8 to 12, that timing.
Not 8 to
Then
12.
4 to 12.
Not 4 to 12.
6
4 to
to
8.
2.
4 to 8.
6 to 2.
4 p.m. to 8 p.m.
4
and
a.m.
then 8 to 12 a.m. midnight.
Okay.
I think 4.
Okay. From 2 a.m. to 10 a.m., the mode of goodness is prevalent in the atmosphere. From 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., the mode of passion is prevalent. And from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m., the mode of ignorance is prevalent. So this is how the time is divided.
Mataji, can you repeat that so I can write it down? You said 2 a.m. to 10 p.m., right?
2 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Yeah, 10 a.m. And from 10 a.m. you said 6
Two.
p.m., right?
Yes, yes,
And then from 6 p.m. you said again to 2 a.m., right?
exactly, yes.
Thank you.
So you see the maximum amount of crime happens during the mode of ignorance. And during this time of mode of passion, which is from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., that's when people are going to work, passionately going to work, striving. I want to make it, working on projects, working for so many hours. So mode of passion is more prevalent in the atmosphere. And early morning, 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. is when our minds are fresh. Everybody in the morning is in a good mood, isn't it? So that's because the mode of goodness is more prevalent in the atmosphere. Okay, and samskaras, beginning with impregnation. So that's the Garbhodhana samskara, which is done to attract a good soul into the womb of the mother, which is done before the man and the woman unite, and ending with burial. So that is called as the Antim samskara. So anyway, here's a list of the items that are given by Krishna himself in the Uddhava Gita. This conversation is called as the Uddhava Gita, just before Krishna left the planet. So these are the instructions of Krishna just before he left the planet. Very, very important also. And he gives us this list. Okay, let's see what Prabhupada has to say.
Although there are these three modes of material nature, if one is determined, he can be blessed by the mode of goodness. And by transcending the mode of goodness, he can be situated in pure goodness, which is called the Vasudeva state, a state in which one can understand the science of God. Srila Prabhupada.
So at the end of the day, we have to transcend even the mode of goodness. We have to come to the Vasudeva state, or to the Shuddha Sattva stage, or to the stage of transcendental mode of goodness. It's if we are situated in the mode of goodness and think we are good, then we are highly mistaken. Then we are as far away from the spiritual realm as the person who's in the mode of passion or in the mode of ignorance. It's the best stage from which we can spring up. It's like it's a board on which, like a stepping stone, from where we can go to the higher stage very easily, the mode of goodness. But if somebody is in the mode of goodness and say, oh yes, but we don't hurt anyone, we don't cheat anyone, we have good relationship with everyone, we are vegetarians, very nice, you're in the mode of goodness, but that's not enough to take you to the spiritual realm. See, Lord Shiva himself tells his wife Sati. Let's read the translation.
I am always engaged in offering obeisances to Lord Vasudev in pure Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is always pure consciousness, in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Vasudeva, is revealed without any covering.
So Lord Shiva also is telling his wife Sati that he is always engaged in offering obeisance to Lord Vasudev. And why? Because that is pure consciousness. Mode of goodness is not 100% pure consciousness. Krishna consciousness is always pure consciousness. Therefore, Lord Shiva himself says that he is offering obeisances to Lord Vasudev in pure Krishna consciousness.
सर्वद्वारेषु देहेऽस्मिन् प्रकाश उपजायते ज्ञानं यदा तदा विद्यात् विवृद्धं सत्त्वमित्युत.
The manifestation of the mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge.
Now in 11, 12 and 13, Krishna is going to talk about the characteristics of the three modes of material nature. So again, he starts with the mode of goodness. And what is he saying? That this mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge. How many gates does the body have?
9.
9. So this is called as a city of 9 gates. There are 9 openings of the body: the 2 eyes, the 2 nostrils, the 2 ears, the mouth, the rectum, and the genital. So 9 gates. So he says that all the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge. Now let's take the example of a door, a gate. Okay. And if there is a light there at the gate, then we can see who is coming in and who's going out of the gate. And we can control. Let's say there is somebody who's coming in with a vengeance and he's coming inside the gate to harm us. So we can close the gate and we can control that he does not come inside the gate. Or if our child who's very small and is going out of the gate, we can close the gate so that the child does not go out and harm itself in, venturing out alone. So if there is a light at the gate, then we can see who is coming in and who's going out, and we can control and we can take the right decisions. But if there is no light at the gate, if it's in complete darkness, then we cannot see who's coming in and who's going out, and we cannot control it. So in the mode of goodness, the gates are illuminated by knowledge. So we understand what is right and what is wrong. We know what we should take in through the senses, and what is it that we should absorb through our senses? What is it that should go in through the 9 gates of the body? And what is it that should come out of our consciousness, come out of our system? Okay, so here Krishna says that the mode of goodness can be experienced when the gates of the body are illuminated by knowledge. Now let us see, what does he have to say about the mode of passion?
Lobha pravrittirarambha कर्मणामशमः स्पृहा रजस्येतानि जायन्ते विवृद्धे भरतर्षभ.
O chief of the Bharatas, when there is an increase in the mode of passion, the symptoms of great attachment, fruitive activity, intense endeavor, and uncontrollable desire and hankering develop.
So what is the characteristics of the mode of passion? There is great attachment, there is fruitive activity, intense endeavor, uncontrollable desire, and hankering. 5 characteristics Krishna is giving us. So personal mode of passion is never satisfied with what he has. He's always hankering for more and more.
Aprakasho pravrittischa pramado moha eva cha tamasyetani jayante vivruddhe kuru nandana.
When there is an increase in the mode of ignorance, O son of Guru, darkness, inertia, madness, and illusion are manifested.
So characteristics of mode of ignorance: darkness, inertia, madness, and illusion. Darkness, as we discussed, he cannot control the gate. So he doesn't know what is right and what is wrong. And because he doesn't know what is right and what is wrong, there is madness. He acts like a madman, completely crazy. Inertia, there is inactivity because he's lazy. There is inertia, there is inactivity, and illusion. So he's in a deluded state. So these are the symptoms or characteristics of the mode of ignorance. So we'll stop here. We'll see in the next class acting and dying within the modes. So Krishna gives us the long-term effect, the medium effect, and the immediate effect of these 3 modes of material nature. And then in the last section, he talks about how we can transcend these modes. That is, we will see in the next class, if Krishna so sanctions. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.
Mataji, I have a question.
Part. Can you just tell me which sloka we started with so I can review on my own time?
Which sloka we started with?
Yeah.
We started the chapter today, Mataji.
Okay, thank you. Chapter 14, so what's one you started with?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay,
You're
Hare
welcome.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So Mataji, with Tamoguna, especially when we are talking about the last one, I have a few questions. The Tamoguna, the way we think nowadays is happening between Ukraine and Russia. It looks like the way it's being described that they are under Tamoguna because they are doing all kind of those crime, right? Which is dangerous and which is also killing. Negative darkness is negativity, and all that is so clearly, like when I'm reading it, I feel like that. I don't know if you are thinking and you agree with that, but this is how I feel, that there is so much of darkness in thoughts, thinking people are not compassionate, they are not kind, they are killing without even thinking, they do no discrimination, their sattvic buddhi is not working at all, they are not in that mode at all. So what do you think about it?
Yeah, it is the mode of ignorance. It's also the mode of passion. It can be mixed. There are so many permutations, combinations of the three modes. So there is passion and there is also ignorance allowed. Ignorance because there is madness, so much large scale destruction. So definitely mode of ignorance. And passion also because hankering. I want more of this geographical location. So there is also passion. So it's mixed modes of passion and ignorance, definitely.
So this darkness, there are people who are maybe innocent also who are suffering because they are the controller of the, the head of the states and head of the, position, who are fighting or who are dictating or who are ordering are the one. So the common people suffer. So why this is taking place? Because I understand in Dwapar Yuga, Kauravas were unjustified, and they so was Bhishma, that is Dhritarashtra. So the war took place, even though Lord Krishna was in his physical form. Even then, also people lived in dark, negative state, and they were in Tamoguna, like Duryodhan and his brothers and Shakuni and all that. So why we are, knowingly, like we know this, why this kind of drama takes place?
Well, again, we have to understand that nothing happens by chance. Every person who's suffering is suffering because of his previous karma. And sometimes we have to take the collective karma of the people also. Let's say in a particular city, there is large scale slaughtering of the cows. So we have to take the collective karma of the people there, because then the city is invoking a reaction. And sometimes we have to take the karma of the leader. When we have a particular leader whom we have elected, right? We have elected the leader, and now the leader takes a decision. So we have to also share the karma of that person.
I don't know, but like Hitler was there. He killed people, innocent people also in gas chamber, all this torture and all. So the collective karma during that time it happened. Then, so the history is giving us what we see, that there are times, there are so many killings happen. Even Nagasaki, when the nuclear bomb was infused. So all that thing also is collective karma. That means, so people when who are witnessing, like we see, we feel sorry if there's an innocent child separated from mother or killed, and the youngsters, there are women who are living in the camp, and they are all the men are fighting there. We feel sorry, but we don't know what the karma was in the past, what they have to go through.
Exactly. Yes.
So all these things kind of puts you into a situation like you feel, I don't want to be born as a human being and
Exactly.
be, witnessing this, because our heart cries out when we see there are so much suffering. People are crying, people are hungry, people are hurt physically, emotionally, everywhere. So much of pain, suffering. And we are told that as a human being, you have a duty, you have a moral duty also to support and to uplift, give hands, cook food for, like, look at Hare Rama Hare Krishna temple, and so many other good agencies are giving that hand, Red Cross and all this, so all these people are doing. So what is the duty during even this conflict time, when it is they are having the collective karma and they're going through, and then as a human being we have a duty to help and to be the support. But listening all these things, sometimes it kind of confuse you, and they say, my God, I mean, this is what it is. Then the collective karma has to take place, just like the war took place in Dwapar Yuga. Same way this has to go through. It is called cleansing or whatever you call it, but this is kind of too much painful sometimes
Yeah,
emotionally
it
for a
is. That is
person.
the whole idea, that you are frustrated with the material world and you want to come out of it. Srila Prabhupada said, this place is not for a gentleman. You have to come out of it as soon as possible. So just come up. This is a prison house. Prison house is not a good place to be around. It's not a good place. Even if it has 5 star facility, we are still in the prison. So this material world is a prison house. It is dukhalayam ashashvatam. There is going to be suffering. There is no way this problem can be solved. We cannot abolish poverty. We cannot abolish suffering. We cannot solve these problems because it is the nature of the material world. The United Nations has been around for so many years, isn't it? Have they been able to solve the poverty internationally? No, they have not been able to. The problem is only increasing, right? Our material problems are only getting more and more complex by the day because it is the nature of the material world. It is designed to frustrate us. It is designed to frustrate us. So if we are feeling frustrated, then it's a very good sign, because now you have the desire to get out of it. Just come out of it and go back to the spiritual realm. There is no way that we can solve this problem. No way. The only way we can come out of it is by Krishna consciousness. We cannot change the nature of the material world, but we can help as many living entities to go back to the spiritual world. We cannot change the nature of the material world. That will not happen. It is designed to frustrate us. So what we have to do is, as much as possible, we have to help people to come out of this material world, come out of the jail, come out of the prison house, and go back to the lotus feet of the Lord. That is the solution. There is no way we can, by helping them, giving them, these material solutions will not help the root of the problem. The root of the problem is our material existence. That is that we have to solve the problem from the root.
Yeah, well, root, then we are not the only one who will solve, because the indweller is same in everyone, right? We come to that, we are aware about that also, that we are spark, we are part of him. So the indweller, any Hitler or called Putin or whoever it is, the indweller is the same. Then why these people have taken this kind of a choice they have made, knowing that? So again, it is like they are misusing their free will. That comes
Exactly.
again.
Yes, they are grossly misusing their free will, and they are under the modes of passion and ignorance. No, we saw how the modes play differently. The 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 conscious, the how the three modes are binding the living entity with material nature. So different, the product is the same, the material nature is the same, but how we relate to material nature, that changes according to what is the mode that is affecting us.
So it's a lot of lifetime changes. It doesn't happen in one lifetime, but if you're walking on that path and you're feeling that you want to get out of it, you don't want to be in this mad house. So still you are living, you have to live like a human being, as you have that many number of years. So you cannot close your eyes and ignore it also, that is not real, or because your five senses, external things tells you, no, this is what is happening. It's not a dream, it is happening. People are killed when they're showing. Your family talks about it, your workplace talks about it, everywhere it is there, like people cannot deny that. But reality, it is a dream. If you read the knowledge, the higher knowledge, you feel that when you sleep and dream, it is also false. When you are in wake up state and you see around, that is also. But to come to in terms of that reality, you need to have that kind of mindset, mind knowledge, and to that level, which is are achieved by the higher gurus, who dwell always in that higher knowledge, who are masters, who have overcome all this. And I'm sure that brings another question here that when you were reading, so the timings which you were saying that from 2 a.m. to 10 in the morning, it is, time for the sattvic. Then comes the rajasic, 10 a.m. to 6, and then from 6 to 2 again is tamasic. So these people means the great souls, who were born in this world to give the bona fide gurus and masters, they are above these three modes because they have by their awareness, being in Krishna consciousness, they have rise like Sanat Kumar or other those Saptarishi and all these, they are higher, they dwell on that higher astral world, so they don't feel affected because they know this is all drama of life. So they're above these modes, these doesn't affect them. But people who like us and you and like everyone, we are on this level. When we see, we do get affected, and we know
No,
that.
don't let it. No, that's the point. Don't let it affect you. What is it that you can do? How to solve the problem from the root is that you go back to the spiritual realm, and with you take as much people as you can back to the spiritual realm. That is how you solve the problem. Don't let anything else affect you, because there is nothing else you can do. You cannot change the nature of the material world. It cannot happen. It's the nature. It is designed to frustrate us. So if you're getting affected by all this, then it is going to affect your sadhana. It's not going to solve anything. Are you going to be able to resolve the conflict?
No, I'm not, but I can pray that somebody, like how many times people pray sincerely from heart and God answers. So we believe in that.
So now you're bringing a spiritual solution to the material problem. So that is good. You can pray. Very nice. Now, so you can solve material problems only by bringing spiritual solutions, not by material solutions.
That I agree. I agree with that. Just like Lord Krishna himself said, Yada Yada Dharmasya, whenever there was a damage in dharma, I come. So he comes, that reassurance and plus proof that he comes. Same way when you pray, the people like me and you prayed so then we get, God answers the prayer when he comes in human form, or we meet a bona fide guru, or we meet a great spiritual master, and we hear good scriptures, and there's kind of a knowledge which brings us out that this is not real what we are seeing with five senses, it is beyond. So all that I agree with you, and that's what it is. Like these question comes more, especially when you are reading different chapters of Bhagavad Gita. So these questions are natural to come because I feel we have a choice. Either we just discuss about it or just take it like a story and just listen and say, okay, this has happened. But when we go deeper into it, then we hear more beautiful things, that how they are like going deeper into the ocean, then you get the pearls, right? You cannot get pearls on the surface of the ocean. You have to go inside the deep. You have to dive deep within you in order to experience that bliss and to get the pearls. So that's why this is a natural, but I don't want to take too much of time of everyone, but that's what it is. My constant, I have a question answered in my mind, and there are times when I can ask because there is some time, but there are times when I cannot. So please forgive me when I take some of your precious time. I know how good you are doing and how much precious your time is, but I really appreciate, Mataji, what you're doing for all of us. And you have so much of patience to listen and then to, provide satisfactory answer. So that means a lot to me.
Okay, so yeah, as I say, always, we have the right to ask questions. So there is no problem in you asking questions. In fact, it's very good. It's a very nice sign. And it's also good that you're feeling compassion. Compassion is the nature, is one of the qualities of a devotee. So when we feel compassion for the other living entities, when you see suffering and you feel compassion, it's a good sign. But we should feel compassion for the soul, not for the body. You see, then that's how we bring in we apply the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. So we feel compassion for the soul, and we find spiritual solutions to the material problems. By trying to materially solve it, see, now United Nations and these other organizations are, are trying to solve so many problems, right? Unemployment, poverty, or raising the standard of living of the people, or education for the poor children. So, but they are coming up with material solutions to material problems. That's not going to happen. It's not, they are not going to try, they are not going to succeed in resolving it. It's not going to happen, because it's the nature of the material world. And Kali Yuga, it's only going to get worse. It's, if you go, there is a chapter in the Srimad Bhagavatam which gives us, where Vyasadeva is predicting what is going to happen in Kali Yuga. And this, what he has written 5,000 years ago about Kali Yuga, we can see it happening now. But these things were completely unheard of 5,000 years back. They wouldn't even imagine such things, But it's now we see already just 5,000 years into Kali Yuga, it's a reality. And as Kali Yuga advances, it is only going to get worse. It's, the problem is not going to be solved through material problems. It cannot be solved. So if you're feeling compassion in your heart, it's a good sign. But we have to spiritualize your thought process. What can you do? You can find spiritual solutions to the material problems. So first of all, you save yourself. If you are not saved, then how will you save the others? Even on the airplane, they announce, no, if if the pressure reduces,
drops.
you wear the mask yourself first, then you help your child or whoever is sitting next to you. So first you save yourself. You make sure that you don't have to take birth again. And then you make sure that with you, many other people you can inspire to go back to the spiritual life. That is the solution. That is where you're solving the problem from the root.
Okay. Yeah, so I think with that, I think maybe it should be another time I should ask 13.20, which I asked you. I don't want to take more of your time because I know you have to take care. You have been on 2 class, so I'm not in a rush. Maybe, maybe you can just send me a voicemail if you feel for the question which I asked.
Yeah,
And,
most of those questions we answered in today's class. How was it? Because you want to know, how was it that the spirit soul is coming under the influence of the material nature, which we answered because it is marginal energy, tathastha shakti. Yes, the whole story begins. We have minute independence. So most of your questions have been answered, but I think there is 1 or 2 which are yet to be answered. I will send you an audio and I will answer them.
Sure, no problem. Because I have heard your recording also, because I feel that even though we are a part of him, why we have to be rebellious, which is in that 13.20 verse. The rebellious, and then it talks about even a verse, we are against God himself, like, so which is what it is. So anyway, so I will, wait. That's not to, because I think it's becoming clear. Few things are answered, as we are progressing towards now 14 chapter, from 13 to 14. Gradually, there are certain things which are, kind of becoming clearer, but still it's good to go to the roots and know exactly for that. Okay, thank you so much, Mataji.
All right, no problem. Take care.
Mataji,
Yes.
I have a question. In that, the explanation of the universe getting half filled with the sweat of Garbhadaksha Vishnu, and
Yes.
the half is filled by which element?
No, the 14 planetary systems are there, no?
Yeah.
It's getting filled with the 14 planetary systems.
Okay.
So the highest is Brahmaloka and the lowest is Patalaloka.
And what does the sweat of Garbhodaksha Vishnu signify here?
It's an ocean on which he is lying. So he's lying on this ocean at the rock bottom of the universe. So he's like supporting everything there.
Okay.
And when there is destruction, the water rises, right? And when there is complete destruction, everything is inundated with water. When there is partial destruction, the first 4 lokas remain, and from Swarga Loka till down, everything is inundated with water. So partial destruction happens at the end of Brahma's day. So every night there is partial destruction up to Swarga Loka. Everything is covered with the water. Only the top 4 planetary systems remain. And
Mhm.
during complete devastation, everything is covered with water. The water rises and everything is inundated. During complete destruction, which happens at the end of Brahma's lifetime.
Lifetime. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, anything else we need to discuss?
There's
Thanks
this,
for
no,
your reading.
what Mataji was asking about and you told us about the solution. Not does not lies only solving the superficial material things, but the solving the root cause. The same Radhanath Swami also, when she came across a political leader, the political leader asked him, so why only you just do Krishna bhakti and Krishna consciousness here, there, give discourses, but you're not solving the problem. So he told that we have to cleanse the soul, which is because the soul is now impregnated with the like material objects. So if you don't, so this is the activity what we are doing, not like you political leaders.
Yes, yes. We have to find spiritual solutions to material problems, not material solutions to material problems. That will not solve the problem. Correct. So spiritual leaders are actually like spiritual doctors. They are treating the disease from the root. They are not just removing the symptoms. A good doctor is one who cures you from the disease from the root, isn't it? When we have a disease, we may develop a fever. A good doctor will see what is the reason that is causing the fever and solve the problem from the root. That's a good doctor. If the doctor gives us a medicine only for the fever and he's just subsiding the symptoms, but the disease still exists, then that's not a good doctor. So we want to become doctors who resolve the problem from the root, not superficial doctors, isn't it? So spiritual leaders, they are spiritual doctors, and they are trying to remove the material disease. We are all materially diseased, no, conditioned souls. We are all materially diseased. So they are curing us from the material disease, which will solve the problem forever. See, there was this very nice incident. Okay, it's there was this disciple of Srila Prabhupada who went on book distribution. And Srila Prabhupada would always preach that you must be honest and you speak the truth when you sell the books. And Srila Prabhupada, this book distribution was very close to Srila Prabhupada's heart. He really liked the service because he said that when you distribute books, then you never know how, the person may read the book and he may become a devotee. It can transform the person. So there was this person, he went out on book distribution with other devotees, and he was telling people that you take this Bhagavad Gita, it will solve all your problems. And he was selling Bhagavad Gita like that. One lady approached him and tells him that I have an electricity problem. Every time the light goes away in my house, will this book of yours solve my electricity problem? So he says, yes, of course, your electricity problem will be solved. You take this book and go. Now, another devotee went to Srila Prabhupada and said that, Prabhupada, you taught us that we should not tell lies, but this devotee, he spoke lies. He told that lady that your electricity problem will be solved if you take Bhagavad Gita. So Prabhupada said, oh, okay, he didn't tell him anything, but later Prabhupada commented to somebody else that actually the person did not tell lies, he spoke the truth. What is the truth? He said, yes, because if she takes the book, she reads the Bhagavad Gita, she applies it in her life, her electricity problem will be solved. How? Because she's going to go to the spiritual realm, where there is no need for any electricity because the planet is self-illuminated by Krishna. So it will solve the problem. You see, it is solving the problem from the root. It's not just solving the electricity problem that she has in her apartment. So, we solve the problem from the root. That is important.
Very nice analogy. Very nice answer. Yeah.
Okay. So on that note, let's end today's session. See you all next week, Krishna willing, for another session. Thank you all very much for your patience. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, so
Hare
much.
Krishna,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.